Happy Monday. We are back for another episode with loads to get through. This week saw big results that could impact the outcome at the top and the bottom of the table. We'll have some definite penalty chat. We've had our first manager victim in the WSL, and the Championship continues to deliver. So let's get into it. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Okay, so a big weekend for us, Soph. Feeling a little tired today. We've covered 4 matches between us this weekend, 3 WSL, 1 Championship. We also did Champions League midweek in Paris. We had planned to deliver a little pod from that, but it ended up being 1 game, and we didn't do the Eintracht game because of flight cancellations. So we ended up giving you an unplanned Melissa Phillips sacking reaction episode. So if you haven't caught that, go to our YouTube and you will find it there. But yeah, we still gave you a little bit of an extra thing, so aren't you lucky? But before we start, do make sure that you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube as well. You can drop us a comment there, you can leave us a review, you can let us know if there's anything you think we should be discussing. But for this episode, we've got loads. So we're going to go through the WSL fixtures. We've got to touch on penalties, some that maybe should have been given, some that maybe shouldn't have been given. And we've had our first manager sacking of the season, which most of us did not see coming. Plus, Soph, as ever, you will give us your standout moment of the week. And we will, of course, look ahead to a week full of cup fixtures, both Conti Cup and FA Cup. And all the while, you will have the lovely dulcet undertones of drilling. I don't know if the mics are going to pick this up. But
they won't pick that up. You
drilling.
don't need to point it out.
Did I not?
No.
Well, just in case someone hears it. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's a nice, relaxing, continuous drilling. All right, let's run through the WSL fixtures this week. We had Aston Villa 2, Bristol 2, Nobs, Lyon, Thestrup and Jones on the score sheet. Man United 2, Brighton 0. 2 goals for Nikita Paris, who's in flying form. West Ham 2, Arsenal 1. Russo, Asai and Sissoko getting the goals there. Manchester City 2, Leicester 0. Hemp and Kelly on the score sheet. Liverpool 1, Tottenham 1 again. Bizet and Holbinger with the goals. And Chelsea 3, Everton 0. Gura Wrighton getting 2 and Aaron Cuthbert with the 3rd. So we shall start, as ever, with the first game. Aston Villa 2, Bristol 2. We were at this one. And this is quite an exciting fixture in the end.
It was. Never count Bristol City out. That's the one thing you should never do.
Lesson learned.
I was worried in the first 15 minutes. I thought Aston Villa were going to blow them away. The Aston Villa, as they tend to do so much this season, started really, really strong. They were full of energy, full of possession. The movement between Nobs and Darley was great, and then obviously Daly was drifting around up front, but also out. They were all sort of linking up really well together. And as soon as they scored, as soon as Jordan Nobs scored, I was like, oh, they've let them score early. They're not going to get frustrated today. But Bristol City, they will never let go. They hit back within 2 minutes. A great goal from Amelie Thestrup, I think. It showed all of her qualities as a striker. That was her 7th of the season. Puts her right up there in the goal-scoring charts, which is incredible for a team when you look at the table, and a team like Bristol who are down the bottom, and then you've got a goal scorer like that doing bits. And it did come from a mistake from Aston Villa. It was cut out down the right before Emily Simon fed it into Thestrup, but still, it was their press, their pressure that allowed that to happen. And it was what they deserved. And then kind of second half took on the same sort of vein as well. Adriana Lyon got on the score sheet. She was a bit wasteful, but she had a good game, but she was a bit wasteful in front of goal. She probably should have had about 3, but she made it count in the second half. And then Bristol just fought back again, didn't they? And they found a way. And if you're going to do one thing this weekend, watch Carrie Jones's goal, because it's a really, really, really sweet strike. So they just won't let go. They're not going to give up without a fight. They are going to fight to the very end. And to go home with a point from Aston Villa, they will consider that a very good job done.
It's massive. And as Lauren Smith has said, it was 10 cup games. It's now 9 cup games, and that's a point from 1. And I think as well, probably one of Aston Villa's best performances in terms of statistics. They dominated every statistic. They were playing some good football. We were worried about them having lost Laura and Kilda Brown, Lucy Staniforth out for the rest of the season. We were worried about their midfield, and actually I thought they played all right. But creating so many chances and not converting will be frustrating. Cara Ward was raging that they weren't given a penalty at the end because Brooke Aspen definitely kept the ball out with her hand right to the death. There was a real melee in the box in the final kind of 60 seconds. But shout out to Shay Inez in goal, who was unbelievable.
I think it was a penalty.
Yeah.
But I think...
She did say, if we create that many chances...
Yeah.
We can't complain.
Like, it was a penalty, but you also earn your luck. And I think Bristol City, with the effort that they put in trying to defend that goal, the way that they shifted around, I mean, Abby Harrison played 3 different midfield positions I think she came on in the 65th minute or something. Mm-hmm. So within that really short space of time, she was all over the shop. At the end of the day, everyone was like backline, defensive line kind of thing. So they put in a real effort, and sometimes you earn your luck.
I think conversely then, Bristol didn't have a great performance in terms of quality on the ball, and we've said in the past that their performances have been good but maybe not been getting the result. I think they're very much results focused now. Lauren Smith kind of said it doesn't matter if it's going to not be pretty, the main thing is they're going to come out of games with points, and that's what's the most important thing. And we can hear from Lauren Smith because you spoke to her after the match. Here's what she had to say.
Unbelievable, actually. After last week we got basically written off again. But I know that the squad are good enough to be in this league, and they know that. We just need to get results, and like I said, we're only 1 goal in it quite often, so we have to turn that around. But I'm proud of them. They've worked hard, they've reacted, and I think last week I said we're only 1 win away from where we already were, and now we're just 1 win away from somewhere better than we were. So let's always tweak it to the positive, and hopefully the results go away tomorrow and we stay within the pack, I guess.
All right, so 1 game down. We then had Manchester United 2, Brighton 0. This was the early kickoff, and of course, all eyes on this because Melissa Phillips had been sacked late on Thursday. New manager Mikey Harris had about an hour with the players on the pitch at some point. He was really thrown into the deep end. And this was going to be an interesting game because it had been a really good hard-fought battle in the reverse fixture. Brighton arguably deserved to win that one, but came away with the draw. Far from the best game. Not a classic.
Really wasn't very good.
No, we watched it back this morning.
A little bit scrappy. United were the better side. They created more. But, I think they registered their lowest expected goals of the season at 0.9. That kind of shows the
quality
level of creativity that there was in the game. It really wasn't great. I think they had 4 on target out of 10 created. And then Brighton had 2 on target out of 4 created.
What was their expected goal?
0.3 or something. I might be wrong on that. But something crazy like that. But Mark Skinner will be thanking his lucky stars for Nikita Paris, who is in the form of her life. She is playing in the number 9 role at the moment, which I think works quite well. I think she is a really good goal scorer, and it allows Jace to go out onto the right side, where she isn't the most clinical in terms of finishing, but she is great in the build-up play, and she has all of the trickery and everything. So they are starting to build that really good partnership between Paris and Jace as well. So, yeah, Nikita Paris, 7th and 8th goal of the season. I think she's up to 4th now on the goal scoring shots. So yeah, she's in the form of her life, and she's getting, well, not her life, she's had good form before, but you know what I mean. Yeah. She's back to form. It's back to the old kind of Keats that we used to know and love when she was at City. But I think it was an important win for them. They're now 4 points off the Champions League places, so they're in touch, but they just didn't create nearly enough for me.
Yeah, but I think, always going to be a bit of an awkward fixture for them coming up against a team who've just lost a manager, because you can kind of not really know what to expect in those circumstances. But actually, I think it was maybe what we expected from Brighton. I would have expected more from them going forward, actually. I think they had 2 shots on target, and the second shot was in the 31st minute, and that was kind of it. So I would have expected more from them. But the main thing for Manchester United is that they got the 3 points. And it's a big week coming up now for Brighton as well.
And do you think that puts Nikita Paris in the England conversation?
Here we go. Here's the question, right? You've got to be asking yourself, if you're Serena Wiegman, who's scoring goals? Who's scoring goals right now? In the number 9. And maybe that's why we weren't seeing her as much, because she wasn't playing the number 9. But now that she is,
She wasn't playing either.
Oh, she wasn't playing.
So she was coming on for substitute appearances for a while. So I think there's a reason why she wasn't in the conversation for a little while, but at the moment she is playing as a number 9. She's scoring goals. It's a chance for Serena Wiegman for this camp coming up in February to take maybe a bit of a larger squad. So she might not, I don't know what she'll do, but I imagine she won't take 23 players. You imagine she might take 25 or something. Give her a chance to look at other players. It's been a while since Nikita's been in the England setup. So Serena obviously didn't really necessarily trust her before with it, since maybe the Euros. But I think now she's in form. But I think that correlated to her loss of form, whereas now she's in form. So that's a different story.
Okay, the match then that I was at was West Ham 2, Arsenal 1. A very blustery game, this one. And West Ham have caused Arsenal problems in the past. Last season they had that draw at Dagenham, and you've spoken about the crazy results we often see at Dagenham. There's something about that ground. But they were very compact. They were about 5 at the back. That's something that Arsenal this season just really struggled to break down. And they really struggled to get between the lines. And I think be creative and problem solving on the pitch is something that I think they struggle with as well.
I don't think it's just this season. I think
under
Jonas they've struggled with low blocks or higher low blocks or whatever it was that West Ham were playing that first half. In the first half, I think they were a low block, but they were playing quite a high line, trying to catch people offside. And they were quite lucky on, I think Beth Mead and Viviana Miedema both broke the line at points and were called offside, and I think they were on. So they were sort of living on the edge there. But in the second half, the way that they pushed much higher up the pitch, their press was incredible. So they really had a sort of game plan for the second half.
I think Miedema was lucky not to have gotten a couple of goals. There was an unbelievable...
Unlucky.
What did I say?
Lucky.
She wasn't lucky, she was very unlucky. Bloody hell. I'll tell you who was full of luck. Hayashi, I thought, was fantastic for West Ham, and she made an unbelievable tackle when Miedema was about to pull the trigger in the box. She'd broken through, nobody around her, and Hayashi just appeared out of nowhere with a sliding tackle from behind to nudge the ball out of the way. It was so good, and it kind of summed up her performance yesterday.
There was another one on Caitlin Ford as well, just after that, where she literally just came flying in from out of space or something. She came in, timed it perfectly, got the ball out for the corner and denied them a goal scoring opportunity, and I think that was probably the best performance I've seen from her in a West Ham shirt. She got player of the match as well. So
it's you know the way some players just look so up for a fixture, and she was that. And there was a few of them. I thought Hawa Sissoko had a superb game as well. Scored a bloody goal like she's in her number 9 era. My God, she put that away so well.
She's a really good striker with the ball.
Yeah, obviously we know her for her great defensive capabilities, but yeah, I was super impressed with that. And she's another one who looked like she was so up for it, and she was pulled off in the second half, and she was on the sideline like watching, living every minute of it, waiting for the whistle to go. So yeah, Arsenal will be really frustrated. I was quite surprised at Jonas Eidevall's substitutes. He pulled off Miedema and Mead at the same time, and I think he pulled off Pelova as well in that substitute, and it was quite early. It was like 59-60 minutes maybe. They all looked kind of surprised. I was surprised that all of them came off at the same time, because okay, you're not. Go on, tell me why I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. I understand why you're surprised, but I think whatever they were doing wasn't working, and they needed to try and bring on Kyra Cooney-Cross on the ball is brilliant. She's an alternative to have. Stina Black-Stenius adds a bit more direct running to the line to try and stretch that back line. I can understand kind of what he was thinking, because they were getting to a stage where everything they did just wasn't working. West Ham were on the front foot in a way, in terms of the way that they were able to press on their players and able to win the ball back and to really disrupt the play. And, the likes of Hayashi or even Vivasai breaking, their energy in tracking back and everything, it just wasn't working. So they needed to try something different. I don't know if it was the right decision, but
it wasn't,
they needed to try something different
at all. I think Miedema looked one of the most creative, given she was she came closest to scoring. So it was a surprise, I think, to take both of them off at the same time, because I don't think the substitutes actually made much of a difference. Arsenal have a terrible habit of trying to walk the ball into goal, I find. They do all these little ticky-tacky passes around the top of the box, and you're like, bloody hell. And then when they do pull the trigger, there's 4 defenders standing right in front of them, and it just gets blocked. So there is that problem-solving issue, I think.
I think the other part of their problem is that they had to bring Leah Williamson off at half-time. Because she's recovering from an ACL, she has to do these minutes and phases. She's got 30 the other week. She needs to get 45 this week. And I guess it's the choice whether you do it in the first 45 and the second 45. Now, for a defender, you probably go first 45 because it probably makes sense rather than changing it up at half time.
Well, they probably
you have to
thought
change
they'd
it
be
up
off.
anyway. But I think the fact that she is so good on the ball in the back line, she can produce those passes out from the back that maybe Amanda Instead can't do so well. And the way that she relieves the pressure on that back line as well. I think they did miss her in that second half.
Okay, let's talk our first penalty chat. Is first penalty Steph Catley gave away, and it resulted in Viv Assayi scoring, bringing West Ham level. Was it a penalty? I was down the other end of the pitch.
So it was touch and go, but I don't think you can criticise the officials at all for giving it. It was on the line. Whether it was a centimetre before the line or a centimetre after the line, we'll never know. The angles on the cameras aren't perfect. There's a shot from front on that makes it look way back, but that's because the shot is from front on, so it's looking... The dimensions are all wrong. You need that sideline one. And that one looked really, really close. The closest one that we had to a sideline one.
Yeah.
Looked super, super close. And just as we were talking on Hayashi's performance, that ball through to Yuki for that penalty was absolutely superb. So
yeah, those ones are always tricky because oftentimes if they do
Can't
happen
criticise
right outside the box and the momentum carries them into the box, it can be a really difficult one for officials to call when it's, you know, full time.
it's literally a centimetre.
Yeah, we don't have VAR, they don't have the option to look back on it. The other one was Katrina Gorey. Well, no, then we had the, okay, this one is funny. This one where the ball came in, there was about 3 or 4 West Ham players. It reminded me of, do you remember when you were a kid and you had that game where you used to try and keep the balloon up? Do you remember that? Yeah. It felt a bit like that because the ball was kind of like in this little group of West Ham players. It seemed to just stay up for a couple of seconds from everybody's hands.
So I think because it hit Asayi's hand, she was like this. She couldn't get out of the way of it. And then it sort of, Zadorsky and Asayi was bouncing between their hands. And it's not intentional at all.
Yeah.
But I would think in this day and age it's a penalty, and if that goes to VAR, that's given it.
I feel like if it hits 3 or 4 hands, it's probably a handball. You know, that kind of way you can understand one player being like, oh, I couldn't move my hands, but that's what it reminded me of. I just imagine that being a balloon. And then, the final one was, of course, Katrina Gorey absolutely bodying Chloe Lacasse.
It was a penalty.
It was a clear as day penalty.
And I don't know, the ref was like literally right there, so I don't know what she saw that made her think it wasn't a penalty, because she literally took her out. I don't know.
Do you remember that game? It was a Northern Ireland playing Ukraine, where a player just kind of ran into shot while someone was running down the pitch, ignored the ball entirely, and just took out the... It wasn't quite that extreme.
No, she was going for the... the ball was there. She wasn't going to take her down. She wasn't intending to take her down. Well, you wouldn't in that area, would you?
When you look at it, there was very little engagement with the ball. I'll put it that way. It looked like the ball was the second
she completely missed the ball. Took out the cast.
So that
should have been a penalty, but I still think that, you know, there will be complaints about the penalties, and this is going to sound maybe a bit contradictory to what happens later, but you also earn your own luck as well. And West Ham's, I do think you kind of...
I can understand where you're coming from, because when you're a team like Arsenal who've created so many chances, you can't be relying on a single call that loses you the game, right? Where we come on to later is it the opposite way around, where a team has been defending really well and you're let down by poor officials. So that's a kind of slightly different thing.
But then there is the converse argument, I'm just arguing with myself here, where, you know, that's a vital point for Arsenal if they draw the game. So in terms of the title race. True. So, you don't want to see those kind of refereeing decisions happen.
Well, I'm afraid there's more. Let's move on to Manchester City 2, Leicester 0. Another not a classic game of football. We didn't get to see this one live, and I'm not sure we've missed out too much. It is City's 7th straight win, dominated the game. Willie Kirk has lost all 14 of his games versus Manchester City. Why did you put that in there? Was that just, for God's sake, that was such an unnecessary little dig at Leicester. Yeah, not a classic. Leicester defended really quite resolutely. They didn't offer very much. I think as the clock ticked down, we thought, could Leicester actually hold on here and get a point? But when
I turned it on at 70 minutes because my game finished, and I was like, I bet you City are going to score in the 80th, that 80 to 90 minute period. They're going to score, and we're going to have all thought Leicester were doing a really, really good job and being resolute, which they were. Yeah. They were really resolute. They kind of limited City's chances, especially in the first half. I think it was the 27th minute that Kopp made her first save. So there wasn't really much on target. And then it was like the 38th minute where she made her second one. She was really good, really, really bright in goal. She made a really good stop on the line tonight, Laura Coombs, both in the first half and the second half. But yeah, City just always, they have so much attacking potency in their kind of armoury. They're always going to create chances, and for Leicester, who did decide to defend, is always a tough job because
one mistake.
You need to do that for 90 minutes, and it takes a lot of effort not having the ball for 90 minutes. So,
and they've got big game players as well, City. They've been in big games where they've scored decisive goals, so they have that experience. Now, the downside of it being on the FA player is that there was one angle from far away of Lauren Hemp's goal, and I need to see multiple angles of that because I still can't figure out which way her legs went. Because I feel like her body was facing a different way, her legs were going a different way, and then the ball went like the complete direction you didn't expect it to go, which is probably why she scored. The goalkeeper looked so flummoxed.
And it kind of trickled into the goal.
Yeah.
I don't think it took everyone by surprise. It kind of trickled into the far post. Yeah, completely acrobatic, but I will give a big shout out though to Bunny Shaw because she could have got really frustrated in that game. She wasn't getting many chances. I think she hit the bar. There's a couple of headers maybe that went over, but she wasn't getting a lot of chances on goal. But she didn't let herself get too frustrated. She came back and she tried to influence the play from different positions. So she dropped deep to link the play. In setting up Lauren Hemp's goal, she dropped out to the right side and provided the assist for the goal. So big shout out to her performance because I think that's been a real development of the game since her time at City.
Yeah. And then Chloe Kelly got the second straight from a corner. We also saw Laura Blinkilde-Brown make her debut in injury time. Gareth Taylor laughed in pre-match about how he needed to come up with some nicknames because he was saying how Laura could learn from Laura in midfield and then he confused himself. So definitely going to need some nicknames there. But yes, another win for City. Looking at the last 5 fixtures, they have the most consistent record at the moment. So all looking good for City. Okay, Liverpool versus Tottenham. Last time they played, it was 1-1. This time they played, it was 1-1. And it was going to be an interesting one because both managers touched on the fact that both teams have been on similar journeys. I know Matt Beard isn't a new coach, but in terms of the way they started the season, both, winning some good games and both being on the same number of points. So it was going to be an interesting one. And it kind of was a bit scrappy.
It seemed to be the theme of the weekend. Yes. Scrappy games. Yeah, not a classic again. First half particularly was really scrappy. I think the best chance fell to Martha Thomas or something in that first half. Few chances from both sides. They were just sort of cancelling each other out a bit. I do want to know if Celine Bissett meant that opening goal in the 70th minute.
Do you remember you said if you do one thing this weekend, look at Carrie Jones's goal? There's a few things you need to do this weekend because you also need to look at Lauren Hemp's and tell me what you did. Some sort of weird kick. This one, another kind of magic little it was almost like a ballet move and it kind of ended up going over the keeper.
It came off her knee or something, or it didn't come off her foot, I don't think.
She'll say she meant it.
I'm not entirely sure if she meant it, but if she did, well, bloody hell, that was a good goal. But you're a massive fan of Celine's.
I am.
She's getting in amongst the goals. Something Robert pointed out earlier on in the season was that he wanted to get her more productive in terms of turning chances into goals. She started scoring quite a bit more regularly now, so I think that's really, really important for her. But Liverpool are a tricky customer, and if you want a lesson in kind of hold up play or holding up your defender, look at Mel Lawley in the build up to Marie Hobinger's goal because that's what you have to be doing in the box. She was really strong. Allowed herself a moment to wait for the run of Hobbinger to set herself free, and it's a great finish from her to drill into the bottom corner.
I think Liverpool put up on their Instagram another humdinger from Hobinger, which I thought was elite. But yeah, that ended up being 1-1, 49% to 51, 10 chance to 6, 3 on target to 4. It was all very
tight, isn't it?
Samey. I feel like Robert and Mac be best pals. But yeah, so nothing too dramatic happening in that game. But they stay on the same points. Shocker. Okay, finally we then had, for us, we went all the way around the M25 for the evening kickoff between Chelsea and Everton, which ended 3-0 to Chelsea. I was quite impressed with Everton and they deserve a shout out because I was really worried about them when Brian Sorensen again came on his press conference and basically said everybody was injured and there was sick. And they didn't know if some players were going to come back. He didn't know if Finnegan was going to be available. He knew Sarah Holmgard was still out because that dead leg was a little more than a dead leg. So we were a little bit worried that there was, I think, maybe 2 recognised defenders on the pitch during that game. Tell you what, there was players in all sorts of positions that we were not expecting, and it seemed to work.
But also, Justine van Havermaet, while she's not a recognised defender, we see her more often in midfield. She's so tall.
She's so tall.
She's such an asset in central defence. So I can understand why Reading and last season and Everton this season are using her in that position, because she does provide a lot of, especially when you're marking someone like Mayra Ramirez, who is also incredibly tall. But yeah, I think it was really interesting. I was sitting next to Jessie Parker-Humphries, and we looked up and we were like, why is Hannah Pennison playing right wing back? And why is Aurora Ghali playing left wing back? Normally Hannah is kind of, further up the pitch, maybe a bit more central. It's definitely with Ghali, she's more central. But yeah, I think the idea was to try and, it confused Chelsea first off, but also because they have an ability to cut in and invert. So when the spaces were there for them to break, that's what they were trying to do, and overload some areas down the flanks. But interesting setup. Why not?
It kind of worked, and 2 of Chelsea's goals came from penalties, which we're going to touch on now, because the first one was a foul by alleged Wheeler on Johanna Reiten-Kaneryd, and Wheeler she'd originally kind of slid into Ramirez and got the ball kind of between her knees, and arguably if Ramirez had gone down, that might have been more of a clear-cut penalty than what ultimately was given. But she got the ball, and as she cleared it, kind of hoofed it, as her foot came down, Johanna Reiten-Kaneryd came in from the side, and her foot went straight down painfully on JRK's ankle. So you can understand why that was a really painful one. And I feel like it was more the reaction that won the penalty than the actual challenge, because I don't know where her leg was meant to go.
She caught her, but there's no way she can get out of it. If anything, it's the movement of Reiten-Kaneryd that takes her into Wheeler's path, because she's clearing the ball. All she can do is, clear the ball and come down. There was nothing intentional about it. It's just the natural movement of her foot. So I don't know how
what else
she's
she could have done
supposed to avoid that situation where she
a penalty was awarded, and then I think the referee booked Payne instead of Wheeler, and then she booked Brosnan, who was very annoyed, understandably, who also had a very good game. So that was the first kind of frustration. Guro Wrighton put that home, great penalty taker.
As she does.
Yes, and we discussed during the game how good Courtney Brosnan was, but there was a moment of madness where she took off out the goal and went running down the wing after Lauren James, and we all kind of heard it
literally
what's happening?
Just sung Courtney Brosnan's praises, and maybe 2 minutes later, Lauren James is breaking down the left, and suddenly Brosnan is flying out of the box like a bat out of hell, and I'm like, I sent you the gif.
That Homer Simpson one where he's like, there was a moment where she probably thought she was going to get the ball first, realised she wasn't, and rather than backtracking into her goal was like, I'm just going to carry on chasing LJ. And I think one of her defenders came back. To be fair, it put LJ off, but there was a moment where it was a bit like, what are you doing?
Complete commentator.
But she did have a very good game. And then we had Mayra Ramirez, who Emma Hayes was so impressed with her speed and her physicality. She could absolutely body people off the ball. She's so robust until she gets to the opposition box.
She's also so good at linking play.
Let me get to this bit first, because she's very strong outside the box. No one's taken that girl down until she gets into the opposition box, and suddenly a feather will knock her over. So again, Wheeler, unfortunately, was kind of tracking back with her the whole way, and as Ramirez turned into the byline, Wheeler shouldn't have gone down, because you're always going to give a player the option. And Ramirez looked for the contact and went down very easily. Her leg
went out.
Yeah, went out to kind of connect with Wheeler, and it was another penalty. So I can understand why Everton were aggrieved at that as well.
Yeah.
Now you can talk about how good she is at linking up play.
No, I just think that, I know that she's been on Chelsea's radar for a while, but for a very quick buy in the winter, I don't imagine they were planning on buying her if Sam Kerr hadn't got injured.
Would have been summer.
I think she was on the radar. So for that, she looks like she can provide so much to the Chelsea attack. And you know how we often talk about Sam Kerr's ability to run and use the spaces and link the play and her aerial ability. Now, she's got a long way to go before she's Sam Kerr, obviously, but the fact that she is seemingly fitting quite seamlessly into the Chelsea attack and is already getting that understanding with the players around her, being able to drop deep when she needs to drop deep. She's physical, she's fast, she's tall. She'll have the aerial ability as well, and she's good with her feet. So I'm only and nothing but impressed by her in what I've seen of her so far.
And she doesn't speak English either, so imagine when she starts being able to communicate even better with her teammates, it's going to be pretty incredible. That was something Emma Hayes said, wasn't it, where she looked at, I think it was Ramirez, Micah and Nuskin around the table having lunch together, and none of them spoke each other's languages, but Emma said to them, we all speak football, and they all seem to understand that, so I like that. So yeah, it was 2-0 then, and then Erin Cuthbert with an absolutely sweetly struck Erin Cuthbert goal to really put the game to bed. I think Chelsea got better in the second half. Emma Hayes touched on the fact that they were too impatient in the first half. They wanted the goals and they were kind of snapping at things, and it definitely.
I think they were a bit confused by Everton.
Yeah, weren't we all? And then another confusing moment was when Brian Sorensen got red carded. The most calm man in football. Got red carded, I think, for 2 yellows. What Emma Hayes said happened was that he had 2 subs ready to go, and then a player came over saying they needed to be subbed off. So he went down to see if he could change the substitution cards and was told he wasn't allowed, which he was quite annoyed about given the depth in his squad. Lack of. And he was booked for arguing that he couldn't change the substitutions. Now there's a bit of confusion over what the second yellow was for. Emma said it's because he got angry, continued to be angry after the yellow and said something and got another yellow. Others are saying he was shouting at his players on the pitch, like instructions to his players on the pitch, and got booked. So whether the ref thought he was shouting at her, I don't know. But he was then, frog marched around the side of the pitch. Like, he could have gone, they could have brought him around the back of the stand, but no, they wanted to bring him out. It was like ringing the bell, going, shame, as they dragged him all the way around.
Run through all the Chelsea supporters.
And he was frog marched out. And somehow he managed to use that red card to get out of
They don't have to
duties.
do post-match. If they get sent off, managers. I found out this yesterday.
I get sent off
so
more
I
often.
didn't know if the Premier League rules applied to the WSL, but apparently they do.
Some of them do.
But apparently it means that managers don't have to do.
I'm surprised more managers don't get really irate in injury time when a game they're losing and then intentionally get sent off.
Well, then they have to miss the next game, so they have to sit in the stands for the next game. So
I
wouldn't want to do that.
No, okay.
It's worth going through post-match to save yourself from that.
It was really annoying because we all wanted to ask him what the hell he got sent off for. Anyway, so as it stands now, it does mean Chelsea open up an even bigger gap on Arsenal. So Chelsea 34, Man City on their heels at 31, Arsenal down 28. I know many of you have asked us, we've asked for questions, and a lot of the questions are about Arsenal's title chances. I think they're in trouble now, personally. I know anything can happen in football, but I think losing 3 games, I know you're going to tell me I'm wrong. Just give me a minute to get my point out.
You're wrong.
You do, regularly. The likelihood of Chelsea slipping up twice is going to be tough. And even if say they lose to City and Arsenal then have to beat both City and Chelsea. So, and it still comes down to goal difference. I don't know. It's got to be tough. It's going to be tough. And I think Champions League is absolutely what they have to aim for. Now, go on and give me your opinion.
I think the fact that they still have to play both City and Chelsea gives them hope, for sure. And I think it's going to be really interesting. Ask me in 10 days' time.
No, we're asking you now.
No. When Chelsea have played Manchester City and how that game goes.
Can't sit in the
Because if Chelsea win that game, Chelsea won the title. I'll hands down say they've won the title.
Okay.
If it's a draw or if Manchester City get something out of it, well,
That's
more
the
than a
same
draw.
thing.
If it's a draw or Manchester City win, I think Arsenal still have a shot. It's getting less of a shot, but I think, their main priority is to get Champions League. They have to get it would be an utter failure if they don't get Champions League football. So
absolutely. Okay, elsewhere in the table, we've got Manchester United now on 24. We've got Liverpool and Tottenham on 19 points. And then it's all really congested from 7th down because Leicester and Aston Villa are on 13. West Ham, Everton and Brighton are all on 11. And Bristol are on 6. Now, I think they could have done with West Ham staying on 8 or dropping points. But the main thing for Bristol City will be that they got a point. And
I think for them, they've got 2 weeks off. Well, they've got the week off. They'll probably have a friendly, I imagine, next weekend. But because they're not in the Cups, they've got a week off before they have to get back. Then they're facing Brighton on the 3rd of March as well. That's going to be a big game. And they will feel that they can get things out of those games.
They'll be sitting at home going, yay, we didn't progress in any Cups. Go us. Okay, so moving on to the Championship, which continues to deliver every single week. We have got Charlton 1, Lewis 1, Watford 2, Birmingham 0. Southampton 1, Crystal Palace 2, Durham 2, Sheffield 5, London City Lionesses 0, Blackburn 1, that's the game you were at, and Reading 1, Sunderland 0, and Sunderland did go down to 10 players in that match.
Ponytail pull.
Oof.
I think it was for that anyway.
He likes that. So it means the table looks like this, with big results for the top and the bottom, I think. Charlton are on top on 30 points from 15 games. Sunderland are in second on 28 points from 15 games. Palace are in third on 27 points from 14 games. And Southampton are also on 27 points, but they've played 15 games. And Birmingham are on fifth on 26 points, but they've only played 14 games. So there's only 4 points between fifth and first. And you've got 2 teams in there with a game in hand. And then down the bottom, you've got Lewis propping up the table on 10 points with 14 games played. Watford are above on 12 points with 15 games played. London City Lionesses are dragged into the relegation battle as well. They're on 12 points as well with 15 games played. And Reading are in ninth on 15 points, but they've only got 13 games played. So 5 points between 9th and 12th. But then there's only 8 points between 6th and 12th.
It's crazy. And I think at one point yesterday, Lewis were out of the relegation zone. Watford were dead bottom, and now Lewis are dead bottom, and Watford
are above.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah, we'll see what happens next week. Right, we've got loads that's gone on this week, so can you pick a moment of the weekend?
I am going to go for Howard Sissoko's goal, because the absolute joy that girl has when she scores goals. Do you remember when she, last season, I think it was, against Tottenham? She took off
oh my God, yes.
3/4 of the pitch before scoring. And the absolute joy in her face, and the same again, she lives and breathes football. She's one of the nicest characters I think I've interviewed off the pitch as well. She's so enthusiastic about the game, about West Ham. She loves playing football. She loves winning. She was high-fiving the fans. And for a central defender to be scoring a goal like that as well, I know it was a mistake from Zinsberger, but she hit it really sweetly, and I'm just happy for her, because she can sometimes get a bit of flack, but I think she is one of the sweetest people away from the football pitch.
She will take you out and immediately turn around and check if you're all right. Yeah. And I just think that's so lovely.
She's a sweetie.
She's like, I need to be a tough defender, but I'm still lovely. So if I do take you out, I'm going to put a hand out and help you up. So
and I think she really does love West Ham as well. Yeah, I get that feeling. So yeah, just happy for her.
Right, we're going to touch on the Mel Phillips sacking now, but we're going to do it briefly because I gave my very angry, irate point of view during the week, which you can check out on YouTube. But it is the first manager sacking of the WSL. And let's be real, 99% of us didn't think that she was going to be the first one to go, because of all the chats, and there haven't been loads of chats about manager sackings, there's been a few of is this manager in trouble? Could their job be at risk? She was not in that chat. So it was a surprise. And I just think other managers, and this is what I think, because everyone's putting out their opinion on social media, and when you look at, but they're 10th, and but listening to other managers speak about Brighton, and not just after she got sacked, they've always talked about how hard Brighton have been to break down, how difficult they've made it for them, how dangerous they are on the counter, how clinical they can be. Not that they created many chances, but when they do get them, and I know we want to just write off the Man City game as an anomaly, but they played really well against Manchester United. They were really good in that first Chelsea game, in the second half particularly. They made it tough for Chelsea in the first half of that game as well. So there have been signs, and I just think impatience in women's football is just starting to creep in.
Just wear now, that's the thing. And I think the problem with it as well is it goes on the back of last season at Brighton and the absolute disaster that they had in terms of recruitment and
stability
management.
Would have been good.
They didn't recruit well in the summer with Hope Powell. Hope Powell went on that run, and you can completely understand why they got rid of her. And then Amy Merrick's came in, and she performed really well, but they decided to go and try and get a big gun without any real due diligence done on him whatsoever. That lasted a hot second before they had to bring Amy Merrick's back in, before they brought in Mel Phillips. So I think stability is key. And yes, you can look at stats and stuff, but I do think you have to at least give them to the end of the season. I think I said the other day, they were a win from 7th spot at that point in time. In this table, it's so tight in that middle area that you can very quickly be up or down the table. And just see where it lands at the end of the season. Recruit better players as well.
That's the big thing.
Not that their players are bad, but I think they are an amalgamation of very good quality players who haven't quite hit the heights that some expected of them at times. And they also need time to bed in and understand each other as well. So there's definite quality there. They need a few, if they want to get top 4, they need to be bringing in more personnel, in more players. But, you know, they just needed a bit of time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Had they kept her and had they beaten United, which would have been a difficult ask, they would now be in 7th place because Leicester lost,
away from 7th.
Aston Villa drew, and Everton lost. Yeah. So just seemed a bit of a wild take. And now they've got 2 cup matches coming up this week, so very unusual timing. Hopefully that's not going to create kind of a domino effect where other teams have gone, oh good, the first one's gone, we can
I don't see anyone else at the moment in trouble. You know, if you're looking at other boss, Willie Kirk's pretty established at Leicester. I don't think they're going to change anything there.
Okay.
Rianne Skinner's got 2 wins under her belt and pretty much it's ensured their safety at the moment. Bristol City and Lauren Smith are tied together. They're not going to do anything about her. They trust her. She is Miss Bristol City, and Mark Skinner is there until the end of the season. I would put my money on it.
So we will be doing Conti Cup this week, and we'll be trying to do 3 FA Cup fixtures. We will be this weekend. So there'll be loads for us to go through on next week's episode of Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. We'll also be heading to Southampton this week for a chat with a few people and have a look around their training facilities. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. But yes, for those of you who sent us questions on Instagram, we touched on some of them, a lot of them around Arsenal. We will try and answer them better in future episodes that are maybe less jam-packed with juicy, interesting stuff, and we can always touch on them as well on our Instagram live, so make sure you join us then on Saturday. Until then, we will see you all next week.